got some live demonstration. I've got a lot of slides to show you. We're going to skip some of the slides and do demos instead, very likely, as the presentation goes on. But I do want you to know that all of the slides will be on SlideShare, probably by the end of the week, whenever I get a chance to upload them. So if you search on BHL at slideshare.net, or you search on my username, which is rmorin, you'll be able to find the presentation in full. So let's see if it'll actually work.
We're also going to videotape this, and if you need to look at it again, or your colleagues need to see it.
It doesn't want to work. Okay, so Biodiversity Heritage Library. As you may have heard, the Biodiversity Heritage Library is a repository that's dedicated to scanning and preserving the legacy literature of biodiversity, making this literature available free online to anyone with an internet connection, enabling access to scientific data, and facilitating access to scientific information. So that's what we're doing. If you haven't been there, it's www.biodiversitylibrary.org. We'll be spending some time there a little bit later, so don't worry that you're not going to get to see it. You'll be pretty familiar with it by the time we're finished up today. The Biodiversity Heritage Library is made up of these 12 member libraries, so some of the best, or I should say the best, natural history museum and botanical garden libraries in the United States and a couple in Great Britain. The California Academy of Sciences and the Academy of Natural Sciences Philadelphia are two of the recent members of BHL. And part of what we're doing is no single one library has all of the important taxonomic literature that's needed for all of you to do your jobs. So we've come together as a group to pull from our collections and actually make sure that the corpus of that literature is available for use. We do have a global reach. In addition to the North American and British folks working on sort of BHL Classic, there are also BHL affiliates around the world, including in Europe, China, Australia, South America, all working together to sort of put together their BHL affiliates in their home countries or regions. And every place you see a marker is where we have folks working on various BHL projects. That's me right there, the only one out on the West Coast. All right, so I've given you kind of a quick overview of what we do, but one of the big questions that I get about BHL a lot from researchers is what the heck exactly is in there? And that's a valid point, because as all of you who work with taxonomic literature know, that phrase, taxonomic literature, covers actually a pretty wide swath of different publications. It's not just the journals that you may possibly think of, or the monographs you might think of off the top of your head. It's not simply, all these Linnaean Society proceedings and proceedings of small organizations and books with very pretty color plates of birds and flowers and fish and things like that. There's actually a pretty wide swath of things that are covered. So I want to go over what's in there a little bit. First, notably, significant taxonomic journals and series. So these are just some examples of some of the things you'll see. The publications of the member libraries are making their way into BHL. If you think of a significant taxonomic journal, especially a bigger one that's associated with a national body or a museum or botanic garden, there's a pretty high likelihood that we're going to have done our best to get it into BHL, if not the entire run of it, at least the pre-1923 sort of out of copyright stuff that we're allowed to do what we wish with, but also a lot of work's done to negotiate rights for the post-23 publications as well from societies like that. The accounts of voyages of discovery. This is some of the best stuff, in my opinion, that's in BHL. A lot of these are things that are locked up in rare book rooms, like my own rare book room at the Academy, stuff that can be hard to get a hold of, and things that if you don't have them already in your collection, can often be very, very difficult to get your hands on. They're often rather scarce publications and can be hard to get a hold of. Also, a lot of times they're oddly sized and in some cases in pretty poor condition. I know I get a lot of requests in my library for the Fremont narrative that you see over there on your right. And all of ours are falling apart because they're old and the paper's not great and they're very heavily used. So it's really nice to be able to turn people to BHL to be able to get their hands on those items. Publications of the member libraries, as I mentioned, a lot of effort has been made to get these into BHL. Of course, I do think that the Proceedings of the California Academy of Sciences is one of the most significant and important taxonomic journals, and so I'm glad I can point all of you to BHL to use it. One of the great things about having Our holdings in BHL, I will say as an anecdote, for those of you who don't know, the Academy of Sciences was founded in 1853 and subsequently lost just about everything we owned in the fire following the 1906 earthquake. And our early copies, our early reference copies of our proceedings are actually photostat copies. And our copies that we have in the archives we keep very secure because there aren't that many of them to go around in California. So it's actually really nice to be able to ourselves consult really good, clean copies of our early proceedings as well as to send our users there, because the copies we have for reference, not nearly as good as what you're going to find in BHL. Lots of fantastic botany and zoology pre-1923, so that includes everything with these beautiful illustrations that you see. BHL is a great source for images if you're, say, doing a talk in front of people and want to show pretty pictures. BHL is a great resource for that. And the post-1923 literature, as I mentioned, these are some examples of some of the post-1923 literature that you can find in BHL. Various floras, some society bulletins, and other sort of museum publications, things like that. Rights, BHL works actively with appropriate associations to negotiate rights for access to the post-1923 literature, so literature that is still in copyright, but it's very important to us that what's in BHL is free and available to anyone with an internet connection. So we have folks working at BHL very hard to negotiate those contracts so that we can bring sort of a wider corpus of literature to people. All right, so if that's what's in there, how do you actually use it? This is the new BHL user interface. For any active BHL users, you may notice that it looks a little bit different. And this is why. We've got some new search capabilities, some new tabs. Also, there are some additionally indexed fields now in the new launch of BHL. And of course, anything that's easier to use and has more index fields means that you'll get better results when you search. So I'm actually gonna hop over to BHL right now and show you a little bit about the user interface, about the differences between searching and browsing, and just show you a little bit about how things work while we're here. So the old BHL search interface was largely focused on browsing and had a search box up here. What we've got here is a little more opportunity to narrow and focus your searches using these tabs. There's some good instruction there. One thing to remember about Biodiversity Heritage Library searches is that these are not going to be sort of fuzzy logic, googly searches, if you can use googly as a word. They generally work on more of a browsing principle. So you want to spell right, and you want to you kind of need to start at the beginning of your search strings. So if I want to get Proceedings of the California Academy of Sciences, I'm not going to type Proceedings California Sciences. I'm going to actually type the title of that journal.
It's not Google.
Yes, it is not Google. And I will say it again, it's not Google. So it's a slightly different method of searching than some of us are becoming used to. I think for librarians, this sort of thing feels a lot more intuitive. But for folks who aren't librarians, who are maybe used to tools that have a lot more of a free text, kind of fuzzy search logic behind them, this is a little bit something to get used to. There are also excellent tutorials. You can see, I'll use the pen. Somebody asked me if I've used a pen yet. You can see there's tutorials that you can actually follow that link. And Grace has, I believe, put together all of those tutorials. Is that right, Grace?
Most of them.
Most of them. But the tutorials are really good, and you can actually go through, and they'll take you step by step through some of the searching and downloading features that BHL offers. So let's do a quick search. I'm actually going to go over, close ink layer. Okay. I'm going to go over to books and journals. Instead of just having the sort of blanket search of starting in BHL and treating it like a library catalog, searching for the title of a journal, and then browsing through the holdings of that journal to find the one you want, and then kind of drilling down to the article. Some of the new user interface search options allow you to they do some of that drilling for you, so you've got a couple of options when you're searching. I'm not going to say that they're perfect. BHL is always sort of working, testing, and developing new things, but this is a way to kind of facilitate your access directly to something that you like. If, for example, I used this search this morning, so I know it sort of works. If I'm looking for an article by Vandenberg, which is going to nicely fill in for me because I've searched it already. If I'm looking for an article by Vandenberg, I can just go put an author last name, an article or a book, I should say, by Vandenberg, and hit search. It's going to pull up a bunch of different results for me. There's stuff from the proceedings of the California Academy of Sciences and the occasional papers. John Vandenberg worked at the Academy. You may have figured that out by my choice and his sites of publication. And that gave me 6. But if I know that I'm looking for something that Vandenberg wrote that, say, in the occasional papers of the California Academy of Sciences, I can actually make that a little bit easier on myself. And I can type, I'll just do occasional papers, and then again, his last name. And when I search, you can see it's going to pull up a couple fewer hits. He did publish more in our occasional papers, and some of these are actually duplicates that have been contributed by different people, which is an issue I can address later if you like. But you can see it just pulled up occasional papers rather than the proceedings. Yes?
If you had written Vandenberg together as one word, would it still find it?
I don't think it would, because that's not how he spelled his name. So again, it is one of those things, and actually I'm glad you brought that up. That brings me to another good point. I'm actually a pretty bad typist, and not the best speller when it comes to people's last names in particular. So one of the things about BHL that I do a lot is I'll often start with searching, and if, and sadly often when, I fail at that, my next step is to go up to the Browse By area, right up here. And if you browse by authors, it's a little more labor intensive, but it allows you to see the list, and that way you'll actually be able to tell if you've got a misspelling. So I'm going to navigate over to V for Vandenberg, and I'm just going to do a Control F for find in the screen, and I'm going to hop down to the Vans. And as I flip through, we'll see that there's Vandenberg. So if I had misspelled Vandenberg, if I had spelled it without the space, my next step would have been to go over to the browse and see if I could find it that way. Are there any other search questions while I'm right here?
It reported 5 displayed items.
Yes.
But if your results set was 10, would that be indicated, or does it display everything?
It will display up to 100. I think it's 100 items. I might be wrong about that. I think it's 100 is what it will display, but it will tell you displaying 100 because it can't display more than that at one time. So it'll tell you that it has, and actually there's been a lot of talk in the group that was working on the new user interface about how to represent if you've gone over that, and that's part of why we say displaying rather than results. Okay. I want to go back to searching real quick for a minute. Okay, so books, journals. There's also collections, which are in the process of being built out a little bit more. The collections are sort of, you could say, artificial aggregates that BHL staff are putting together to represent distinct collections within Biodiversity Heritage Library. So far, there aren't very many. When we gave the talk this morning, it actually came up that maybe some folks in the audience would have ideas about what would make a good collection. So if you're interested, you can go up to the feedback link up here. I'm going to talk more about feedback later. But you can actually contribute some feedback. And if you want to put a question or comment and make a comment about something you think might make a good collection for BHL, you should feel free to do that. And as I said, I'll talk a bit more about feedback later. I don't want to get too off track with searching. So books and journals. Authors, same principle. You're going to want to, the other searches, the author and the subject search are more, they're more browsing again, but a shortcut to browsing. So you want to start spelling the name correctly and spell it as accurately as possible because it's not going to, hey, did you mean this, like Google does. One of the nice things, you can also do corporate or meeting name, which is great when you're looking for conference proceedings and things like that, or publications of an institution. That's always very handy. So again, I'll type in my own institution. And you'll see it's going to pull up the various authors for my institution, which if you then click on them, will pull up the titles associated with that particular author. Is that making sense? Yes?
That's where I was going to go with your search. If you go back to that search result, can you explain those synonyms?
Okay. You can see that there's actually very, very minor differences. This is one of the problems with, I see this in a lot of library catalogs, especially in union catalogs. One of them has no punctuation, one of them has a comma, one of them has a period, and then one of them is broken out by department. And when we pull our data in from different sources, because of those differences, it's tracking them as different authors. So it's not perfect. This is the kind of thing that if you were a library cataloger, you would spend a lot of time trying to do sort of deduplication and cleanup in your own library catalog. So this is not a perfect case, definitely.
Can you use Boolean operators like the star or the percent, or like if a name is spelled different ways, different times, or?
I am actually going to throw that out to somebody in the crowd because I can't remember if you can use those Boolean operators. No, I don't think so.
I'm just trying.
It hadn't come up before, or I should say I haven't tried it, but I have a feeling there's a reason I hadn't tried it. That's because it's not supported. Okay, so yeah, this is the kind of thing that in library land you devote human time to cleaning up, and the kind of thing that I'm hoping in BHL land there will be some either human or computing tools to help fix that problem, but that is something you are going to encounter, unfortunately.
If you do search in Google, you will hit BHL things, right?
Yes, that is very true. If you search in Google, you'll often be, you'll hit BHL texts. Very often you will be directed to Internet Archive, which I'll talk a little bit about in a little bit of time. But yes, we do have a fair number of hits coming in through Google, as well as people going and accessing the portal directly. I wanted to show you browsing a little bit. There's also a kind of a word map here that you can use for some subject browsing. I use this mostly when somebody says to me, I want a book with pretty pictures, and there is a pictorial work subject. It doesn't have even close to everything that's a pictorial work in BHL. This is only if something was tagged with that title. There's many more very, very pretty picture books in BHL, but it is a way to kind of hop around and find some things directly. You can also browse by year, which can be very helpful if you are looking for a particular item. You might have an idea of the year in which it was published, but not a whole lot else. You can actually go to a specific year, and then you can further sort by author or title or year within that. So that can help you narrow down some things if you're having a hard time searching. And of course, when you're dealing with the older literature in particular, sort of the pre-1700 through the 1800s, that's where some of your problems can come in with sort of alternate Latin spellings and weird characters, I shouldn't say weird, characters in German or French or Italian or whatever titles. Sometimes using this can actually really help you narrow down what you're looking for. Okay, back to searching. Subjects, again, it's mostly a browsable sort of result set. So if you're looking for fishes of Montana, you're going to be browsing subject headings. Type in fishes of Montana, don't type in fishes Montana. Or if you're looking for something with a geographically subdivided heading, or another heading that's also divided, you want to start at the beginning. I know not everyone in here is a librarian. That was a shout out to the couple librarians who came with a little geographically subdivided heading moment of your life. There's also scientific name searching. This is one of the things about BHL that actually works really well most of the time, that gets a lot of people really excited. Using taxonomic intelligence tools, you can actually search for scientific names in BHL and get a results list, which I will do very quickly. I'm going to do a quick search. You'll see it pulls up both, the binomial and the trinomial. The name search works for uninomial, binomial, and trinomials. It's really very handy for a lot of things. If I click on that name, it's going to open me this nice spreadsheet, which I can then download as a set of comma-separated values. Yes?
Is that only if the name is in the title?
No, this is actually using taxonomic intelligence tools developed by UBio to search within the text. There's a caveat, there always is. It's using the OCR, the optical character recognition text. If you've ever gone and you're sort of Googling around on the web and you find something that you think is perfect and you go to look at it, and what you see is sort of a white page with what looks like a really messy Word document, and you do a Control F and you sort of find what you're looking for hiding in there. A lot of times you're looking at the OCR. So OCR is not perfect. It's not a human-generated name inputting functionality. It's computer work. It does a really good job a lot of the time, but it's not perfect. So that means you aren't going to find every single thing because OCR is not perfect. But it does a pretty good job. I really like to use this with graduate students who are just starting to dip their toe into systematic biology and plumbing the taxonomic literature, because this is a nice entryway for them that doesn't scare them. It feels a little more controlled. They've got a finite set of things to work with. And it tends to be a really nice introduction, not only to using this resource, but just how to get into the taxonomic literature in general. Yes?
It's what you are, the demo you are doing now is a live, because I'm getting a completely different page.
Are you?
Yes.
I am live demoing, yes.
You are on
Yeah, I'm on the internet.
I see. So that's quite interesting. Why I'm keep getting, has been the traditional one I always get. So yours is fancier and more structured.
Interesting.
Maybe try refreshing your page. I wonder if there's some.
Oh, maybe, yeah, because I bookmarked a long time ago.
There you go.
Okay.
OCIO also does network web cache.
Okay, yeah, because this was bookmarked a long time ago.
Ah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me look at your link.
All right. All right, so there's a little bit of our name searching. I think I'm going to pop back over to are there any more questions about searching or browsing before I pop back to the presentation? Okay. So I'm going to go back where I was. We've already discussed the browse versus search options, the name searching. That's Chiroderma salvini, by the way. These adorable little white-faced bats. They're probably vicious in the wild, but they're really cute in that illustration, which is why I always demo on them. We showed scientific name searching. Another way to get to Biodiversity Heritage Library at the level of the taxonomic name is to go through the Encyclopedia of Life. Have folks here done this? Have you done the EOL to BHL jump before? Is that something you'd like to see? Okay, let me demo then. So we'll just hop on over, assuming the internet still likes me here. All right. Oh, they changed the picture. Aren't you pretty? So here we are on one of the EOL pages. For anyone who may not know the Encyclopedia of Life, I'm pretty sure you all know since you all work here, but it is the effort to have a web page for every organism on Earth and to document it with the backup data, with images, with sequences, and with literature. So if you actually scroll down on the side here, this table of contents, you will see as you go, lots of different things. So physical description, evolution and systematics, physiology, cell biology. If there's nucleotide sequences, barcode, conservation status. This is a big one because people like peregrine falcons. And then if you go down to references and more information and Biodiversity Heritage Library. Oh, is it going to work? Did it let me? Go. I so want this to work and it's not going to.
Like I said, this is kind of a test right here.
All right. So we're going to click, and it's going to load. And what it's done, this is such a long record that I have to scroll around. What it's done is it's loaded a summary of publications in the Biodiversity Heritage Library that it's found the taxonomic name using the UBio tool that has found the taxonomic name within the text. And so if I just click on one of these, what it's then going to do is jump me down the page and break it out by each page that has found an instance of that scientific name. So if I then click on page 209, it's going to take me in, and it's given me access, page level access at the level of the taxonomic name for that particular organism. which is a nice thing. It's also listed all of the other things on the side, all of the other taxonomic names that it's found on that same page are listed here on the side. Yes?
While you're on this page, can you go forward or back in case this is a partial?
While you're on this page, you can move forward. You can scroll. Well, there's a couple of ways to move around in BHL. This was my next demonstration of sort of moving around within the BHL portal, so I'll do that right now. You can actually move using the page numbers on the side here. So you can go down, go back up. You can do the 2-up viewer, and zoom in and out. You can turn the page using the page flippy. You can also just scroll when you're in this window to get to the next page. So you've got a lot, once it's actually landed you in the place you need to be, you've got a lot of options for hopping around. And that's just, if you go and look this up again on SlideShare in the future, you'll kind of see the flow of how this works. All right, so some of the big questions I get about BHL, that's great. It's a pretty portal, the books look nice. How do I use it? We've gone a little bit into. And then how do I keep the great stuff that I've found? What are your options for actual saving, downloading, and working with the files you find in BHL? So I'm going to go back and demo a good number of our downloading methods. So since I've already showed you a little bit how the viewer works, I'm just going to hop in here. Now, the first thing that you should know is that from this view, what you can do, if you go to download this book, it gives you all of the information that you might possibly want to find out. If you want to go to the bibliographic information, you can actually click on this tab, and it'll tell you more about what you're looking at. It also, for multi-part items like journals, it brings you back sort of to what we in Libraryland would sort of consider this sort of our record, and then it shows you the holdings, so what we actually have of that item in BHL, so you can hop around between years if you like. You can go again between the 2-up sort of flippy book and the single page. Zoom in and out. From here, you can do several things. You can download a PDF of the entire item. A lot of times, if there's a monographic serial or a standalone issue of something, or just a book that somebody knows they're going to consult a lot, downloading the PDF of the entire thing is a really good way to go. Save it on your hard drive. You have access to it whenever you want. You have all the advantages of having it as a PDF at your fingertips without going online whenever you want it.
Do they want to try to download the PDF in the field?
If you want to try to download the PDF in the field, you're perfectly welcome to. It kind of depends on the size of the file and how long it's going to take.
They're kind of big.
Yeah, they can be. Well, depending on what it is, it can be a pretty big file. So I've hit the download, and now it's going to cook for a little while. And because I think that might be a big file, I'm going to keep going. We'll go back and check on it in a little while. Other things you can do, you can download the OCR, as I mentioned. You can download the images. If for some reason what you really want is a collection of JPEG 2000s of each page image, you can download a really big zip file from this download images and get all of those. I've had people ask me to do that because they want to work with sets of images from a book that's heavily illustrated. They want the plates and they don't want to flip through and download every one. You can do it. It's going to be a long time. I'm not going to show you. Martin has his hand up.
Just one thing we do like to point out is that the JPEG 2000s are the higher resolution images. So when you're looking at the PDFs, you'll often say, oh, that image isn't really good in terms of the illustration. So if you really do need to see the illustration in the most detail, it's best to download the JPEG 2000s. And then you can do additional cleanup or examination of those JPEG 2000s. It'll give you a better quality than the PDF that you see.
What is the resolution of those JPEGs, Martin? Is it 400?
They're scanned at 300 DPI, generally speaking, but again, the DPI depends slightly on the size of the original book.
Right.
So it's between 300 and 600, depending on the size of the actual volume.
Thank you, Martin. And like I said, I've had folks who've been really thrilled with, they just want the whole thing with the high-res images. and that's perfectly fine. You need some time to kill because it can take a while. The option that I think is probably the most popular is to select pages to download. You just want a couple of pages, or you want an article. And so I'm going to go through that. This is the steps to go through to generate a PDF of selected pages in order to get just an article or just a chapter or just a couple of pages that you want as a PDF. So there are instructions that you can follow if you forget how to do this, but I do want to go through it real quick. You're going to put in your email address. We're not going to email you the PDF. That's one thing that's important to remember about this. So if you're going to download a PDF that's really big and you don't want it to crash your inbox, you don't have to worry about that because the generation is going to happen in the magic off-site BHL land, and then you're going to get an email telling you to go retrieve it. So you have to put in an email address. You can share it with friends if you're working with colleagues and want to send it off to them too. You can get just the images or the images in OCR. OCR allows you to search within the PDF. If you're generating a PDF of a single journal article or book chapter, we ask you to put in the chapter title, the authors, subjects if you have them, but chapter title and authors in particular, really nice to have. It helps us sort of build our bibliography of articles that we can then deliver internally, which I'll talk a little bit about later. You hit the next button, and now you get to select your pages. This is the part where people sometimes start to lose it, because it's hard to remember what you may have wanted at any particular time. One of the nice things is that each of these little page graphics will open a thumbnail of the page to kind of help you remember where you were. Or it should. Come on.
It's a blank page.
Maybe it's a blank page.
Yeah.
All right. Let me go to one that has numbers on it. Do it.
Just right click on it and see what it says.
Oh,
Maybe not.
doesn't seem to want to be cooperating with me. Let's do the cover. I know the cover should work. All right, I've struck out. I've 3 tries and I'm out. Normally, you will get to see an image of the page, and that's good just to help you remember where you are. And all you have to do is just select the pages that you want. They don't have to be in sequence. You can select 4 pages from one area and 6 pages from another area, up to 50 pages. And then just scroll on down or up and hit done. And so if I were logged into my email right now, what I would get is a notification with this confirmation number saying that we're generating your PDF. And then when the PDF is complete, I'll get another email containing a link that I can then follow to go and download the PDF. So again, one of the really nice things about this is you're not filling yourselves or your colleagues' inboxes with PDFs, because especially if you're getting larger documents, that's a lot of space in your inbox, and a lot of, especially work emails, will bounce those. So that's a really great quality, and I'll actually show you, because I am prepared for the internet to never work the way I want it to. Mm-hmm. And actually, I have a thing that will show you. So if you want to select pages to download, that's normally what happens over there on the right when you click on one of those little thumbnails. It actually opens a small image of the page, which is great for remembering where you're going and where you want to start and end any particular page selection. All right. So since we've done PDFs, I wanted to go back real quick. Actually, I'll just hop over to another page and show you one other thing that actually eluded me for ages when I first started using BHL, which is that you can actually just very quickly print or download a single page. So if I'm on this page and I go to this little print icon, it's going to open this window that's then going to allow me to print just this page, or to right click and save just that page. And I know I use this a lot when somebody calls me in a panic. My researchers all sit 3 floors below me, And when now someone calls me in a panic saying, do you have blah, 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 because I can't find it and I'm leaving right now. This is where you can go and actually find the page, print it out real quick. You don't have to go through the PDF generation process. It's going to print you an image of the JPEG. It's not going to be a PDF. But you can just go and print that really quick and run it downstairs or email it off to somebody. Just toot sweet. You don't have to wait for the PDF to be created. Okay, so we've done reading in the BHL portal. We've done PDF creation for the whole item. We've done PDF creation for a single article. Here, by the way, is the download of the entire item that we were looking at, that I was waiting to download before. If you have vertigo, don't look, because that was kind of scary. So you can see I've got the whole PDF now. I can then save this to my desktop or my thumb drive and take it with me everywhere I go. Okay, as Martin pointed out, you have the ability to download all or download high quality images from BHL, which is a great thing. Another nice thing is that what's served up here in the portal actually is still pretty good quality. This is not the days of sort of the crappy microfilm-esque digital stuff. For those of you who've been around for a while may remember some earlier sort of journal delivery projects where things were basically taken off of microform and they really looked like microform, like with scratches and bits, and you know, they weren't very high quality. That's not what BHL is serving up. BHL is working really hard to serve up really good high quality images that are useful for what you're actually doing. We've been through the Zoom a bit. Reading in the BHL portal, I already showed you, but I'd like to show you a little bit more about e-reading, both within and without BHL. Let me see if I can, come on, advance. Oh no, I broke it. Wow, it's angry with me. Maybe the internet will work. Okay. Oh, it thinks I'm printing. How quaint. Okay. Let's talk about e-reading a little bit. The content for BHL is actually served up. It's scanned and served up via the Internet Archive. And one of the reasons you want to browse material in BHL is that we provide good information and those great taxonomic tools, better data about the item itself. But there are reasons to go over to Internet Archive, and a lot of those have to do with download capability. So when you go to Internet Archive, you can download the PDF, you can read in their e-reader, which will hopefully open easily. Their e-reader has a nice search function up at the top here. I did this earlier, so everything's saved. So I'm just searching scallop. You can see there's these nice sort of landmarkers, and they fall down everywhere that that text has been found, everywhere that the word scallop has been found in the text. You can highlight over them to see what you've got. You can click. It's going to take you, and it's going to highlight the word even so that you can see exactly what it's found. And you can continue to do that throughout the book. You can also, these will also read aloud to you. Internet Archive is in the process of creating DAISY files for the visual impaired, and through this e-reader, it will actually read to you, but it doesn't work on this machine. I tried to demo it earlier. Other things that you can do from here. You can go to Internet Archive from any record in the BHL portal by going to that pull-down menu. Among the other things that you can download from here are EPUB and Kindle files. So you can download EPUB files and you can download Mobi files for your Kindle. I'm going to go back to my show real quick. I actually don't have a Kindle, but Gil lent me his, so I can at least hold it up. There's a really nice picture of John Steinbeck for some reason, which is nice, especially because I'm here from California, so that makes me happy. So what you see here are actually screenshots from my iPhone. And so this is me downloading the Natural History of British Shells from the Internet Archive, downloading in progress. Over here you can see that I've downloaded the EPUB, and when I click on it, it asks me which kind of app or which viewer I want to use. So I can view it in iBooks, or I can view it in Kobo. And then on the far right, I've downloaded the Mobi file, and I have the Kindle app on my phone. So I don't have a Kindle, but I have the free Kindle app that allows me to read Mobi files. So I can then I can download these files and then open them in these apps and read them on my device.
Once again, the OCR text isn't perfect, right?
Yes, the OCR text is not perfect. In fact, if anybody ever says anything to you about OCR ever in your life, running through the back of your mind should be OCR is not perfect. So here are some shots again from my iPhone of the views in different devices. So this is from Kobo. Here you see my library for the Kindle app with the Birds of Chile that I've downloaded from Internet Archive, and then over in iBooks, you can see some of that Donovan Shell book that we were just working with. So again, these are screen caps from my iPhone. I'm not going to tell you it's the best way to read anything, but it's really nice to actually have that capability to download this stuff and take it with you. It's not uncommon for me to actually download one of these books, load it onto my phone, because I know I need to use it later, and maybe I just don't want to wait till I get home. Maybe I want to find the thing I want on the bus. And most of these apps allow you to bookmark things, and then I can bookmark it and go back and find it later. It's a lot of fun to play with if you've got an iPod Touch or an iPad or any e-readers. It's a pretty interesting way to learn your way around the e-reader land without having to buy any of the books, because they're all free.
Very good point.
Yes, thank you. Persistent URLs are a great aspect of BHL. Every single page and every single title in BHL has a persistent link that you can grab and actually just send as a quick email to somebody. I do that all the time. Somebody says, I really want this article, what can I do? And I go to BHL, I find the article, and I grab the persistent URL, send them an email right back that says the article starts on this page, or the description you want is on this page, the plate you want is on this page. And it makes it really easy to share with colleagues, to email yourself reminders. It's a great sort of almost like a dynamic bookmarking that you can do just using the persistent URLs in BHL. Yes?
One other addition. I know many of you are used to seeing digital object identifiers, DOIs, in publications. We're hoping to be adding DOIs to starting with the monographs within BHL in the coming months. So you'll be able to actually cite them as DOIs within your publications.
Yay! All right. Other things that BHL is doing. BHL data is open. If you are a programmer who likes to do interesting and fun things with data, you can get the API from that URL, and you'll have access to data about the scientific name, authors, titles, volumes, and page numbers. So if you're looking to do anything fun, sort of mixing up any data from various sources and coming up with new delivery methods, that's where you go. Global users. In the last quarter, so October to the end of January, there were 292,304 visits to BHL from 207 countries and territories. So you can see lighter green is fewer visits, darker green are lots of visits. There's very little complete white space on this map, so people from all over the world are accessing BHL. It's important to note that those people sort of span the spectrum. There's librarians, citizen scientists, taxonomists, systematic biologists, tech people who are interested in what BHL is doing. It really spans the map. No pun intended. As I mentioned, who uses it? These are our usage statistics from 2010. There's a lot of different people using it for a lot of different reasons. But from last year's survey that BHL ran last year, it's thought that more than 80% of visitors seek information in systematics, taxonomy, and nomenclature, which is nice because I think that means we're kind of hitting our target audience, aka you, pretty squarely, which is nice to see. Yelling across the divide. One of the things about digital libraries is that a lot of the things people like about traditional libraries, like human beings and help, often feel really lax in this kind of online environment, but that's something that BHL is working really hard to avoid. We've instituted a feedback mechanism that I showed you really briefly before, And the queen of feedback is here, Grace. If you can raise your hand, let everyone know who you are. Grace is sort of the main person running our feedback mechanism. And I'm going to hop back on to the internet and show you real quickly. If you go up to feedback, again, you have two different forms of feedback you can submit. Sort of the general is the question or comment feedback. Just fill in your name, email. Is it a technical question, a suggestion, or a bibliographic issue? And then fill in your comment. If you do this from within a book, if you're looking at an item on BHL and you hit feedback, it's going to record where you are. So we'll actually know what item you're having problems with, if it's a problem, because that's going to be captured when you hit feedback from within the text. If you hit it from the home page, we're just going to know it's come from the home page. You can also submit scanning requests. We're actually powering, at Cal Academy, we're powering all of our scanning right now using this is a Countersoft software that called Gemini that collects and consolidates and allows us to administrate scanning requests. We're doing all of our scanning request-driven. So maybe I shouldn't have said that because you might all run back to your offices and start frantically typing out scanning requests. But you should feel free. We obviously have parameters. You can see there's guidelines for submitting requests. But you should feel free if there's something you want in BHL and it is not there, you should request it because otherwise we may not know that you want it.
I will say too, Smithsonian is driving all of our scanning by request as well. So
good.
If you know there's something here at the museum that's not yet scanned, just let us know.
And Grace does a wonderful job actually sort of farming out those scanning requests and working with the other scattered BHL staff all over the country to make sure that requests are filled, that they're filled in a timely manner, and that people's questions are addressed by the party best capable to address those questions. So if you put in a feedback, if you put in an item of feedback or you put in a scanning request, it might be taken up by me in California, it might be taken up by someone in London, it might be taken up in Chicago or Missouri, because we're all working together to provide the best level of service we can. Scan requests. If you want to keep up with what we are up to, we're very involved in outreach of various kinds, so you can find us in all of the web applications over to the side. Follow us on Twitter for the most recent updates and cool things that are going on in BHL. I highly recommend that. As I mentioned, this presentation, along with pretty much any other presentation done on BHL ever since the dawn of time, can be found on SlideShare. So that's slideshare.net. If you go in there and search on BHL or any one of the names of very involved BHL people, you will find a set of interesting and informative presentations. Questions? We got time. What do you want to know? Come on, don't be shy. I'll go back to demoing. I'll just answer philosophical questions about the project in general. I'm kind of open for anything. Don't be shy.
Does everybody understand how to download the images and that you read them in Photoshop and not in JPEG 2000? It's kind of unusual.
Yeah. You can do Photoshop or you can download IrfanView, which is a free application that you can find on the web. The logo for it's sort of like a red panda that's been squashed. It's kind of a strange looking logo. Not a red panda as in a red panda, but a red colored.
But if you have a stock desktop computer and you download it, you're not going to be able to look at the pictures without this great software.
Yeah, it works really well. Is there anything else?
Related to that, there is on the public-facing wiki, I don't know.
Let me hop over to the public-facing wiki.
There are instructions about downloading all of these different things and about where to get viewers if you don't have viewers.
Public-facing wiki, so you know, if you go to the About link from any page in the BHL portal, it's going to take its time. But it's going to take you to what we call our public-facing wiki, which is full of information about BHL. We've got our FAQ, tutorials and help, developer tools for any of you who are interested in doing any kind of advanced development, our documentation, licensing and copyright. So I'll actually go there really quick. One of the nice things about BHL is the items that we have in BHL and the images are available for reuse under Creative Commons license. And so it also gives you information about how do I determine if something is in the public domain, how do I determine if it's under copyright, and can I use your files? And so you can actually see it gives you all of the information about using the files and abiding by terms set down in our Creative Commons license, what to do if things are to be reproduced commercially, all of that, all of your due diligence if you're going to reuse an image, as well as information about downloading and viewing the JPEG 2000 files, as well as actually a very nice overview of what Creative Commons licenses allow you to do, because I think sometimes that can be a little bit confusing. But there's a lot of good information on the public-facing wiki. Again, just click the About link on the top of any page in the BHL portal, and it'll pop you right over here, and you can learn more about what we're doing and sort of your rights and privileges to use our stuff. Yes?
Sometimes when I'm looking for serials, the issues are out of order, or there's other kinds of problems with that, or the pagination is funny. Are you doing anything to solve those kinds of things?
Yes, we are. Gosh, it's like I planted him. We are working on those problems. Those are issues that require a human-powered solution rather than a computer-generated solution. And efforts are well underway, spearheaded, I would say, largely by Grace here at Smithsonian and being farmed out to those of us in our satellite locations, to actually do bibliographic editing and to do pagination and to fix those problems in the BHL portal. If you're seeing things that are out of order, the pages are wrong, and you'd like a priority put on that, I know it can be very frustrating if you go and you look at a serial and there's no pages for anything and it's one that you use all the time, don't hesitate to submit feedback, because that allows us to prioritize that issue and get to it right away. You can see just by hopping around the BHL portal, there's a lot of that sort of human-needed editing that has to go on. So if you actually let us know there's something you're really aching to be fixed, that allows us to go and actually address that issue right away. So don't be shy about feedback. You can also submit feedback to tell us how much you like us, because we like that too. But feedback of all forms is welcome and encouraged. Yes?
I had a question back here came up about Smithsonian authored publications that are in Smithsonian publications, like the contributions, aren't showing up in BHL, and they should be.
Interesting.
So, can you?
Right now, the older Smithsonian publications, the Proceedings of the U.S. National Museum, the Bulletin, those are all in BHL. But again, since we don't have the article level information in this portion of BHL, you won't find article level information in all those classic Smithsonian publications. The newer Smithsonian publications, which are the contribution series, contributions to botany, contributions to paleontology, those have all been scanned, but we've not put them into this portion of BHL. There's another side interface to BHL, which we're not going to go into right now today, called SiteBank, which is where all of the Smithsonian contribution series, as well as the AMNH publications, and those ones are all in. Those will all be integrated into the portal at some point in the near future, but right now those newer contributions aren't showing up in this iteration of the portal as of today.
But you can search them in SiteBank if
right.
you want to get to them. Okay.
Do we want to hop over to SiteBank?
Yes, please.
All right. So SiteBank, again, soft launch for an open access repository for biodiversity publications. When you add your article level data, when you download a PDF from BHL, from the portal, you go and you select pages to download and you enter article level data. That helps us populate SiteBank. I'm going to go in real quick, just under Browse. So you can see there's things that are already populating up. I'm going to do a really quick search. I did this search earlier, so it should be saved. I'm just going to search for bats. It would be better if I searched on scientific names, of course, but I'm not going to try spelling it this time of the day. You'll see that it allows you to filter by publication type, book or journal article, filter by year, filter by keywords, authors, publication, publisher. So again, you can see Chicago Natural History Museum, Field Museum, all of that. It lets you sort of drill down through your original search to get closer and closer to the actual article that you want. This reminds me very much of the interface for Zorecord. I'm guessing a lot of you in the room are fairly familiar with zoological record, those of you who aren't botanists. It's a very familiar, sort of comfortable interface reminding of that. And again, as Martin mentioned, one of the things that's actually really wonderful about this is that this is what you've kind of been waiting for all along, which is the article. Stop that. I don't want to install anything. Okay. Is the article level access to items. Because that's, of course, the big problem with library catalogs. You search a library catalog, it doesn't give you article level access. You search BHL, unless things are pulled out and analyzed, it doesn't give you article level access. Part of what SiteBank will do is allow you to actually, instead of having to start, as you would in paper, start at the book or the physical item level and then drill down, it'll allow you to search more on the terms that you would search to find an article in a database like Zoological Record and deliver it for you here.
Just as an added plug, I know all of you who do research are participating in the Smithsonian Research Online, which is the research bibliography that then feeds up into all of your other types of publication pages and the repository where we put the full text articles. The important thing for that is, since that is compliant with the SiteBank portal, what will eventually happen is we're going to synchronize the Smithsonian Research Online with the SiteBank portal. So that means anytime we deposit material of your publications into the Smithsonian Research Online element, it'll automatically get harvested by SiteBank. So they'll be interlinked that way so that all of that data will flow directly from us into SiteBank without any human intervention. And we've done the experiments with that, and right now all we have actually is the contributions to zoology. So we actually don't have the other series in there yet.
What about copyrighted articles?
Right now we are considering, we're still working with legal counsel on those, and it's still a little bit fuzzy, but we're still getting the go-ahead in terms of being safe harbor, federal employee, mostly contributions. So basically anything that we feel comfortable putting into the Smithsonian Research Online is their game for moving across to site.
And I just want to point out real quick, so here's a SiteBank article that I pulled up, and if you go and you click on that URL, what you're going to get is actually, you're going to get the PDF as generated from BHL, which leads me to believe that this is actually here in SiteBank because somebody took the time to fill out that information when they created a PDF, which then allowed us to separately index that article and make it available for access at the article level. So every time you download an article and you download a single article PDF from BHL, just remember that nice person who did this and think about how nice it would be for you if you were able to just quickly search and find that item and pull it up as a PDF right away.
Is this compliant with all browsers?
I have not had any problems with BHL in any browsers, although I don't ever use Internet Explorer if I can help it. But I have had no problems in Firefox, Chrome, Safari, Opera, and even when I have had to use Internet Explorer, I haven't had problems. So I don't know.
We have had problems with the iPad.
Okay.
And we can't quite replicate it consistently, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
Some freakish thing.
All right, and I have accessed BHL on my iPhone frequently and have had no problems with that either, except this print's really tiny. Do we have anything else?
I wanted to emphasize again that BHL is not this large conglomerate, and your feedback doesn't go into this big black hole. It actually gets answered. I mean, there's chances that you can make improvements to it, add things to it. You have a real great opportunity to do so.
Yeah, one of the things I like to say about BHL is that it's one of the few tools or resources that you make better just by using it. And the more you use it, and the more you take a couple seconds to participate, tell us what you're thinking, fill out that article level data, the better resource it actually is. This isn't a fixed, static, out-of-the-box resource. It changes, it's dynamic, and a lot of that is driven by feedback and user needs. So don't ever hesitate to tell us what you're thinking. I'm going to be around. Oh yes, Rusty.
Just real quick, when you were searching for a taxon name, you mentioned the taxonomic intelligence, which intrigued me. What is it being intelligent about?
Do you mean what is it?
You put in a name, you put in the name, and it found the name.
Yes. It's searching the OCR for that name. I don't know if, maybe, Martin, do you have anything more that you can say about
there's
Bio?
an algorithm that was developed in combination between American Museum of Natural History and the UBio team at the Marine Biological Lab. It's called Taxon Finder. And basically what it is it's an algorithm that searches through likely binomial or Latinate constructions that are possible organism names. So there's a number of rules that throws out things like anorexia nervosa that are a Latinate binomial construction, but not a species name. So it's a complex series of rules that goes through the OCR text, identifies likely candidates, so cross indexes against the UBio name index of X million names, and then sort of looks for likely candidates that are binomial names. And in different, you can, when you sort of look at the different outputs from the UBio against the taxon finder, it'll give you either a likely name or highly likely, possible, could be a name. We don't actually display those different types of characteristics.
So it's that part of it, the sort of fuzzy searching part. It has nothing to do with finding published synonyms in different classifications and giving you...
Oh, don't we wish?
Well, I'm just... That's why I was asking.
You wouldn't need us anymore.
Rusty, the question was what is actually doing an index, and it's not even really doing an index. It's really just looking for fuzzy matches, as Rusty said, against possible Latinate constructions that could be what we actually like to call them name strings as opposed to names, because in some cases it'll be a string that's like a name but not really a name.
So that is sort of a googly thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an order of magnitude googlier than any Google search.
We also like to say we're taxonomically agnostic because we don't claim to make anything about homonyms or synonyms or any of the different kinds of taxonomy stuff that you guys are all in charge of.
Yes.
So we just say this looks and smells like a name. You work with that.
Yes.
What percentage of the older literature that's desired to be scanned has already been done?
Do you guys have an idea about an actual number about legacy literature that's actually, or do you mean things that have come in through scan requests, or just sort of an idea of the pre-1923 literature in general?
The pre-1923 literature in general.
We have that number. I don't have it off the top of my head, but we have some estimates of what we think is a total universe of pre-23 literature and what percentages are scanned and what percentage are able to be scanned for various reasons. If you leave your name, we can get you that information, as we do have it.
Yeah, and there's always issues with some of that early literature too, because the book scanners are of a certain size and some things are too large to go into the scanners. Sometimes the copies are really scarce, and I know that I've gotten scan requests for things where I might be the only library in the country that has it, but mine's been rebound 3 times and has got no margins in the gutter, so I can't put it in a scanner. So there are some things that will kind of fall out of the body of things that can be scanned at this moment in time because of restrictions like that. But yes, I know I've seen that number floating around somewhere. It's just not at my disposal. But we will get it to you if you want.
Another thing we want to do is the Biological Society of Washington. Is that right? Martin, is that a little...
Yes. So as Becky mentioned, we are doing material that's actually in copyright or post-US copyright cutoff. So we are working, and one of our staff here, based here at Smithsonian beyond Crowley, is working with publishers to get permission. We've been working with the editorial staff at the Biological Society of Washington so that we can get all of that online, as well as, I think we have 84 different publishers right now that have given us permission to do the post-23 material. And again, if any of you are sitting on those publications, It is free to do that. Basically, all we need is permission. Donations are, of course, accepted. But again, if you are on a board of anything that you'd like to encourage your society to turn into the public domain those materials, feel free to contact us.
You'll be in really good company, and it really enhances exposure of the publication.
Yeah, I just want to add Vicki Funk. We did the Composite newsletter, and she was a little bit afraid that they would get less requests, and they've been getting more requests now that it's up on BHL. It's getting, the articles from there are being used by scientists, and it's, they're seeing a lot, I guess, a higher journal impact factor in their journal now. So.
All right. If there's any other questions, I will be around. I will also be kind of on site a little bit tomorrow. Some of the people might know where to find me. My email is here. You're welcome to contact me for any reason whatsoever. You can also follow me on Twitter if you like. I tweet about science and librarianship and hockey mostly. So if you like those three things, then you'll be highly amused by my 140-character ramblings. But again, if there's anything else, feel free to find me. I'll probably be around for the rest of the day and a little bit tomorrow. And thank you for sticking around and for paying attention. Thanks.
Thanks for coming, Becky.